Okay, hello everybody. Welcome back. It is just...
My name is Icarix and he...
It's me, Kudagusis. With me is Icarix, although I'm keeping him shut for the time being. Because he's such a pain in the hole.
You just called yourself...
So...
He just called himself Icarix again.
Now I'm pretty sure I call myself Kudagusis and I'm with Icarix.
Okay then.
Anyways...
Anyway, I'm Icarix and he's Kudagusis, just to reiterate one last time.
Yes.
And, yeah, so, what's going on?
Okay, now, so yes, we're on to what's happening. So, we got attacked by Parsa, which was one of our satrapies, and evidently they've rebelled. It's been a while since we did our last recording session, hasn't it, Icarix?
Because of reasons, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
like, there are just unnameable reasons why we haven't
Basically, we don't remember why, but doesn't matter, we're doing it now. So,
we
yeah,
had
they
that
attacked a
leadership the last
settlement. They attacked a settlement of ours, and I did not try to fight it, because I just didn't think it was worth it. But also, we have
Because
reached our Rails reforms.
Because you didn't have the courage, man. Come on, you gotta build up some courage every once in a while.
Shut it!
Learn to take risks.
Anyways, we have reached our Rails reforms, which means various changes. Our
Like
Uzonoi,
what?
I'm
Give some
getting into
examples.
it. I'm getting into it now, so shut it. Our Uzonoi swordsmen become Toreoporoi Uzonoi, basically Toreo swordsmen, where they are more of a, as of one of the more recent patches in DEI, they've become melee skirmishers, a sort of unique hybrid type of unit. So the gist of it is, they have a higher speed and more javelins, and I think better javelins, but their mass and HP is reduced. In addition to our getting Toreo swords, we get Toreo Poroi, Toreo spearmen, really solid light spears. We our Hippocratian peltas become peltastai. The general difference is they have bigger shields and they fight with swords and they have more armor. Outside of that, what else? We get two types of Toreos cavalry. Toreo Poroi Prodromoi, a kind of skirmish, medium skirmish cav with Toreo shield. And then we have, I think they're like Hippeis Toreo Poroi Garatraikes or something to that effect. Garo Thracian Toreos cavalry, basically. So a unit of Toreos cavalry, consisting of a mixture of Galatians and Thracians, which is unique to the Seleucids.
Why is that?
That's a good question. I remember reading somewhere. I cannot for the life of me say for sure. I think it was an article by Nicholas Secunda about the Toreo shield. But I cannot find it in that article that I thought I read it. So maybe it's in one of his books. I'm definitely sure it was Nicholas Secunda who said this when talking about Toreo Poroi. But the gist is that there was apparently a regiment within the Seleukid army of Toreos-bearing cavalry consisting of Galatians and Thracians. So, I don't remember the exact specific reference, but I remember reading it somewhere. And so that's probably why it's unique to the Seleucids. Granted, the Seleucids weren't the only Hellenistic kingdom to use Thracians and Galatians. The Ptolemies used them both.
But it was like...
seemingly not as any specific cavalry regiment. But they did
definitely
utilize...
like an uncommon thing for it to happen, right? I'm assuming.
Well, how do I put this? Because it depends what you mean. The Toreo shield became quite popular among Hellenistic armies. And Thracians and Galatians made for some fairly popular mercenaries. Although I suppose with the case of the Ptolemies and the Thracians, they were more like, I don't think even the Galatians, They were less mercenaries, but more part of the whole clericy system. So, to explain the clericy system, not like I fully understand this, but the gist of it is, Kleulukoi is the Greek term, Kleulukoi, and it basically refers to people who I think were given land in exchange for military service. These were generally settlers, Greeks, or even, well, various non-Greeks. Because the Ptolemies did not really want to let the Egyptians fight.
What, did they just see them as like inferior, or just like
basically
just not...
because the reason why they didn't want Egyptians to fight was because they feared rebellion.
Was there a high chance of that though?
Well, let's just say that after the Battle of Raphia, which part of what helped the Ptolemies win said battles because the size of their phalanx was supported by getting a load of Egyptians trained in the phalanx, they faced a lot of rebellions that they had a hard time dealing with.
Ouch. So,
yeah, they didn't trust the native Egyptian population to just,
They expected that kind of servitude would come back to bite them in the ass.
Yeah, I think they feared that it would bite them in the hole, and it basically did.
It did?
Well, they had rebellions after. That's probably what made things difficult for Ptolemy the Sixth.
Ouch.
I think it was Ptolemy the Sixth. I'm trying to remember, because I think yours Antiochus the Third was on the Seleukid side. He was the king of the Seleucids at the time. This was quite early in his reign. So, I think it was against Ptolemy the Sixth. I thought it was Ptolemy the Fifth, but it might have been the Sixth Ptolemy. But yeah. Hippes Toreoporoi Garatraikes, that's what they're called.
Ah, right, okay.
So Hippes, like horsemen, Toreoporoi, Toreos bearing, Garatraikes, Galothration. So yeah. But so the Ptolemies relied a lot on these military settlers. So like Thracians, Greeks, a lot of them were mainly Greeks. And then they used Galatians. The pride of Sekhmet. And this one's of Zeus Ammon. Yes, Zeus Ammon is one of those attempts for the Ptolemies to syncretize the native Egyptian gods and the Greek gods.
What does it actually mean to syncretize, though?
Kind of harmonize, hybridize, you might say.
So basically just like, isn't it just another way of saying assimilating, I suppose?
Kind of. I suppose the idea is that in a way to try and assimilate cultures, you can just try to mix them. So the Egyptians, okay. So Parsa attack Ecbatana. We have a pretty large garrison, but we decided it wasn't worth fighting against their 2 full stacks.
Well, that sucks.
And they sacked it. But it seems just be a common thing that happens. Even I think a lot of you go to like Gaul and Britain, a lot of their local gods were kind of
borrowed or
merged with the Roman gods. Like you had Apollo Maponos, for example. That's one example. Or Mars Caturix.
Sure, it kind of makes you wonder if like any of the original sort of settlements or sort of original standings of the whole thing were still intact, or if everything was just like syncretized from different cultures, as you
I suppose the whole thing is that the whole world is very interconnected and cultures are often in flux.
Well, I know. I guess
So
just in the case of the Roman and British empires, you know, they took so much. They took like so much inspiration and borrowed so much from other cultures. You start to wonder if any original stuff was left intact, or if everything just came off as borrowed or
well,
stole,
I guess
whatever.
it depends. When it comes to other gods, I suppose we know a lot about the core Roman gods. You know, like Jupiter, Mars, you know, Venus, Saturn, whatever. A lot of those were actual gods that they worshipped, but the way they kind of interpreted those gods were influenced by the Greek versions to some extent.
So it's like a different mode of like.
I suppose once they got exposed to the Greek gods and kind of identified the Greek gods as being very similar to their own, I suppose they kind of filtered the way they kind of expressed those gods was very much in the manner like the Greeks, you might say, and they use other Greek stories.
It's like.
But I suppose how they saw some of these gods would have been different. Like I think the Greeks were very wary of Ares,
It kind of
but
reminds
the Romans
me
weren't.
of.
So
It kind of reminds
very
me of
Mars.
this bit in a movie called Silence, where like there's these. It's like a difference in how certain cultures interpret the Son of God. So like in the Western world, in the movie, they explain that in the scriptures in the West, the Son of God is actually the Son of God. But according to like the Japanese, the Son of God is the actual sun that rises daily in the east. So it's just like they understand. They know they have like the
I
Son
suppose
of
in
God.
fairness, the
they have their own-
Japanese, you could argue the Japanese
there are
don't have a
different methods
proper.
of interpreting what the Son of God actually is. So it.
I suppose,
does it
from
sound
what I
kinda
understand,
like what you're describing.
I don't know. One thing I'll say from what I recall, the Japanese don't really have a clear-cut word for God. Like kami is a bit broader in meaning than just God. It means kind of like a spirit of sorts. So anything can be a kami. That tree on the other side of the road can be a kami. Is the way I understand it. So you're also dealing with the fact that the Japanese may not, especially with Shintoism, didn't really have a clear-cut system of a god. I suppose what we're probably very lucky we could call gods on some level, but the term would have also been quite broad in its application.
I suppose, yeah.
But it gets people sort of look at things and interpret things differently. Like, I think the Greeks were wary of their war god Ares, at least broadly. They seem to look at him with a very degree of like to be wary of him. But the Romans did not view Mars in the same way. In fact, if you kind of get into like the Roman origin story, if you will, like the founders of Rome, Romulus and Remus, guess who their father was? I believe
Who?
it was Mars.
Really?
The story is that he impregnated quite, I think forcefully impregnated, I think she was maybe some kind of like Vestal Virgin or some equivalent to that, and gave birth to the twin boys, and then they were taken to be drowned in the river Tiber, but were rescued by a she-wolf and raised by a she-wolf. You can look at it as kind of that's how the Romans sort of see themselves in a way. You know, they would not have had that sort. They were more, perhaps, embracing of that kind of war side. And
Yeah, I suppose.
sure, even the people that were responsible for the start of the First Punic War, the Mamertines, they named themselves after their war god Mammers, which is basically just the Oscan version of Mars. So, yeah. So,
Anyway, what's going on in this battle?
yes, so we should probably get to talking about the battle here. So we're attacking a weakened army of Parses. So it's a pretty straightforward. So our first battle with our new Tereos troops.
Oh, these are the newly arrived ones?
So here's our Tereos swordsmen. Those are our Galatian spears. We have our pikes.
There's
holding
our...
the enemy. So we have our Galatians are holding the enemy in the side, fighting the Sparabara. So that's the oval shield. It's called a Toreos in Greek.
Oh, right. Okay.
And it probably comes from Celtic shields. Because similar shape.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of emerged after the Greeks were clashing with Celts. You know? After the invasion of Greece by the Celts.
Yeah, of course.
But at the same time, it's also worth highlighting that, like, Thracians and Illyrians were using those shields for a good while. Or shields a lot like those. So, like, yeah, there's that factor to consider. But yeah, here we have our Galatians swords, or salt troops, the Kuroas.
A good bit of damage there. I'll give them credit for that.
Oh yeah, and and the enemy's now routing.
Wow, already? That was fast.
Well, we've elephants and we had superior numbers and quality.
I know, but all the same, it's impressive how they fold so quickly.
Again, they were already quite damaged and worn out by the time I attacked them.
Yes, I can clearly see that.
Yeah, so we have our Syrian elephants just chasing them down.
God, they don't stand one sandstone's worth of a chance.
And there's our Tarentines. And here we have, I think it's the Tyroi, yes, chasing down the enemy stragglers.
Man, those guys are really dumb if they thought they could stand up against us. They folded in less than a minute, honestly.
Well, it wasn't less than a minute. The battle had been on for a couple of minutes.
I know, it's just an exaggeration on my part.
Yes. But yeah, that battle went very well.
Yes, indeed.
But, yeah. The Terrorphobos.
A decisive victory.
Yep. With only one unit
decisive.
left standing. Heraclidai. Now we wipe out those stragglers.
Oh, that was swift and quick.
Oh yeah. And now we're heading up towards Ganzak. So we
Yes,
can take it off
apparently it is
parcel.
all. Thank you very much.
We're building up another army. So I think this is probably meant to be one of those armies. When I reach the Roures reforms, I often like to do this, where I build armies that are more what I call maneuverable.
How do you mean? I mean, like, why more maneuverable exactly?
Well, essentially, they don't have a phalanx.
They don't.
No, I don't use any phalanx troops in these armies.
What's the advantage?
Better maneuverability. Because phalanx troops are slow.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
So it means I have 4 units of spears, 6 melee troops, and it can give me room to have, say, 2 elephants.
Sounds like a decent division, alright.
So yeah, it's basically what I would describe as a more offensively geared army. And it means I have a little bit more room for cavalry and elephants.
Who would you pair with the elephants?
What do you mean?
Like, you say that you leave your African elephants for another faction. Like, who would you partner
Yeah,
them up?
because African elephants are really only thing that Carthage and Egypt and Medewi have.
Oh, okay.
They have African elephants, but the Seleucids have access to Asian elephants. So I'll be using obviously the Asian elephants
Yeah, of course.
So he sends a diplomat to Atropatkan to get a bit better diplomacy with them. And then I'm sending another one over to Partava.
So who are you sending again? You're sending like
Diplomats.
diplomats, right? Yeah. Okay. And you're sending them to different regions. So
Yeah, sending one to Lydia. So yeah, trying to just to play around a bit in the politics.
Or you're a very political man, aren't you?
Well, gotta try. Just want to keep that loyalty up.
Yes, loyalty is very important.
You don't want a bloody
Loyalty.
civil war.
Loyalty isn't earned, it's bought.
But yeah. And I got that dude married. And I'm sending his wife off as a diplomat to the Arabs. Cleomenes. So yeah. I'm sending her to another Arab faction. And I'm sending her to Maria. But yeah. This is
Heralds of
Armavir.
Thanatos.
Yes.
Oh,
So I've recruited some Armenian mercenaries to help bolster the garrison here.
I'm assuming Armenian mercenaries are a good bunch to have.
They're pretty solid enough troops, those particular mercs.
What's their specialty?
Just some pretty heavy spears and some heavy cavalry.
Oh, that's handy.
And we have, I think, Ekbatana being attacked again, but our garrison stands no chance.
No, we're not
So
doing so
unresolved.
good with keeping up with our victories.
You win some, you lose some.
Seem to be badly outnumbered recently.
Well, I think this is one of my satraps that have betrayed me.
Our satraps have betrayed us. How dare they?
So I've gained Ganzak. Okay. So some good, some not so good diplomacy.
How dare they betray us like that? Execution! Off with their heads!
Anyways. So we've gained a foothold into Mada. We just need to take the rest of this province.
Hopefully that gives us some leeway.
Success?
Oh, would you look at that? An assassination mission that was actually successful, everyone. It was actually
Yes.
successful. That was a sight to behold, let's just say.
Now we're moving an army further up.
Where I see we're moving towards
Ekbatana.
ah,
And sending
right.
that army into Prazpa. Not worth fighting, so we ought to resolve that. We peacefully occupy. Moving this army up towards Ekbatana.
Ah, I see we're building up a fortification on both sides.
Yeah, we're trying to surround them, basically. Take the territories back.
It's about time.
Well, yeah. Thing with the Seleucids is your satraps are prone to rebelling. Well, not all of them, but a lot of them are.
No, all of them.
So yeah, not all of them. Lydia is usually pretty loyal. You know. Yeah, so we're just recruiting more troops for this army. Trying to figure out what else to recruit. Yeah. Eagle Zeus.
see.
We're out of supplies.
Oh, that's bad.
Indeed.
We include a tax province for wherever that was.
Yeah. Didn't we get a good look at it? The slave uprising.
Oh, I've never seen this cutscene before.
Oh, it's a very old cutscene from like the base game. I think back on slave revolts were more of a common issue.
Never had slave revolts before, have we?
I have a few in this. I've had a few happen in this campaign. Don't think anything happened like that happened in Carthage.
Wow.
See, I've been more aggressive in enslaving captives this campaign for the economic benefits, but it hasn't worked out too well in balancing it out with public order and stuff.
Oh, I see a settled tribe has settled
A
down.
horde, yeah.
Settled tribe has settled down and done some settling.
A migratory horde has settled down, basically. But yeah.
I see we're building up our supplies there.
Yeah, Side, so we've expanded Side, and I'm building a farm there.
Ah, they can grow some cattle there.
Yeah, to get some food and income. Because our food supplies aren't great. So I had to recruit some Syrian archers. And then some peltasts. And a Syrian elephant.
Ah, the old, good old useful Syrian elephants.
Well, they are pretty solid.
I see we built some more supplies from Mesopotamia.
Yes, our growth has gotten up. So we can expand our cities. So we do that for Hatra. So yes, we are building a homestead in Hatra. To get more food.
Ooh, food. Food.
So yeah, it's looking at what I can recruit with the cavalry chain in Seleucia. I decided to go for some Cretan archers instead of peltasts. We've talked about Cretans before. I decided to get some Sarissa for it.
Again? I forget.
The Cretan archers, they're archers from Crete, or rather specifically archers that fight in the Cretan style.
Wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know the Cretan archers were from Cretan.
Crete.
Crete. Okay.
Or that they were non-Cretans fighting in the Cretan style.
They can do that.
Well, their Cretan archery was a distinct thing, you might say. Cretan archers typically had small peltai shields and had Eastern style composite bows, as well as having big heavy arrowheads. This meant that arrows could do quite a bit of damage, but their range was quite limited. So we capture Raga.
We're reinforcing Mada there.
Yeah, so we've now owned 3/4 of the province of Mada. We just need to take Ecbatana, and we have the whole province.
Oh. That's cool.
So I was just recapturing what we lost.
Take back our lands.
Yeah. We can theoretically recruit a Scythe Chariot if we wanted. Dovrebbe una
could?
fora armata. Yeah. We will start seeing Scythe chariots in action, I'd say, soon enough. I think.
Great. I'm looking forward to seeing those, actually.
They're pretty fun to use.
Yeah, you've mentioned a good few times, actually.
Yeah, I like using them. They are quite fragile, as chariots are, but they do the job pretty well in getting a lot of kills. If utilised well, they can rake in the kills. Because they'll just be darting across the map, knocking enemies over, and doing a lot of damage. But yeah, the Marians want a non-aggression pact, and I say yes. They don't want to be enemies of them just yet. And we are nearing the end of this session. We only just had one battle.
Which we will continue on with in our next video. So until then, thank you for joining us, dear viewers. Be sure to leave a comment, like and subscribe, and of course we will see you all very soon.
Indeed, thanks for watching.